A very good morning to you and welcome to the Morning Outlook Report. I'm Rachel Jones reporting live from 𝐊𝐶𝐤𝐴 TV Sydney studios. The Australian share market is set to open higher this morning as the S&P ASX 200 futures point to a 0.4% advance. And in the big news of the day this morning, Australia is set to build nuclear submarines as part of a new defence alliance with the US and the UK to counter the rise of China in the Pacific. Prime Minister Scott Morrison unveiled Australia's role in a landmark tripartite security group known by the acronym AUKUS. Mr. Morrison was joined virtually for the announcement by US President Joe Biden and UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson in a historic joint press conference. Now let's take a look at the ASX. Yesterday, the market did see an improvement by afternoon trade, but not enough to lift into positive territory for the day. The ASX 200 fell to a snap 3-session winning streak. By yesterday's close, the benchmark index ended down 0.27%. It was down as much as 0.75% at its earlier lows. Local losses followed another weaker session on Wall Street overnight, with declines for all three major US indices. The Dow Jones has only seen 2 positive sessions in September and is down 2.2% so far for the month. US futures are slightly higher for the upcoming session. The energy sector saw the sharpest decline in the market drop after being the standout performer yesterday. Global oil prices were slightly firmer overnight and remain at 6-week highs. Beach Energy shares fell 4%, while Santos was 3.5% softer. Major miners were also lower and acted as a major drag on the broader market. Our biggest listed miner and largest miner in the world, the BHP Group, their shares fell 3.5%. It's now trading at the lowest level since the start of December 2020. BHP also erased 13 points from the ASX 200 alone. Lithium miners, meanwhile, managed to lift, however, with Pilbara Minerals their shares jumping 8.4% on strong demand for its spodumene concentrate via a digital auction on the Battery Material Exchange, while Orocobre shares were 2.3% higher. The healthcare sector rose as much as 1%, with CSL shares rising, while Cochlear and ResMed advanced 2% and 1.7% each. Technology was the next best sector, with WiseTech Global adding 3.2% and Afterpay also climbing 1.2%. 6.5 billion units were traded yesterday, worth a massive $10.4 billion, with 700 stocks higher, 736 stocks lower, and 416 unchanged. Moving on to company news now, lithium producer Ioneer is set to establish a joint venture with Sibanye-Stillwater to develop the flagship Rhyolite Ridge lithium-boron project located in Nevada in the US. Sibanye-Stillwater is a $10 billion global mining company. Meanwhile, Meridian Energy announced today that Jason Stein, CEO of Meridian Energy Australia and PowerShop Australia, will continue in his role until March 2022, or the earlier completion of the Meridian Energy Australia ownership review. Jobs data for August will be released later today by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. The economy is expected to take a hit from the Delta variant of coronavirus, which will see the unemployment rate rise back towards 5%. On the IPO front, iron ore player Pearl Gull Iron is scheduled to list today. That's after raising $4 million from investors at 20 cents a share. Australian September consumer sentiment for confidence rose 2% to 106.2 points for the month. That's despite the COVID lockdowns across the states of New South Wales and Victoria. Now it's time for a very short break, but stay tuned for all the news you need before the market opens.
Tune in to get the latest information.
Whether it's about market movements or the currency graph,
Sectoral coverage or industry news.
we cover it all on our news segments.
Be on top of the latest news
With 𝐊𝐶𝐤𝐴 TV.
And welcome back. You're watching the Morning Outlook Report. Let's take a look overseas now. Chinese economic data was generally weaker than expected, highlighted by retail sales annual growth of 2.5% in August, compared to expectations of 7% improvement. The Aussie dollar is weaker and buys just above 73 US cents. European share markets slipped yesterday with the Pan-European Stock 600 index down by 0.8%, while utility stocks tumbled 2.9%, with Europe's biggest utility leader Enel falling 5.5%. That was after the Spanish government's move to cap energy bills. The German DAX index lost 0.7% and the UK FTSE index fell by 0.3%. In London trade, shares in Rio Tinto rose by 0.8% and shares in BHP lifted by 0.5%. The US share market climbed yesterday as investor concerns about rising inflation and monetary policy tightening both eased. A surge in crude oil prices boosted energy shares, with EOG Resources and Diamondback Energy both surging. Microsoft shares gained 1.7% after announcing a dividend increase and a large $60 billion share repurchase program. But Wynn Resorts shares slid 6.3% as the government of Macau looks to increase regulatory scrutiny over casinos. The Dow Jones index rose 0.7% and the S&P 500 index gained 0.9%, while the Nasdaq index added 0.8%. US 10-year yields rose by 1.3% and US 2-year yields were steady at near 0.21%. Major currencies were firmer against the US dollar in European and US trade. The euro rose to $1.1815 at the US close. Global oil prices jumped around 3% yesterday. That's after the US Energy Information Administration reported that US crude oil inventories fell by 6.4 million barrels last week to 417.4 million barrels, the lowest since September 2019. The Brent crude price rose to $75.46 a barrel, and the US NYMEX crude price added 3.1% to $72.61 a barrel. Base metal prices were mostly higher yesterday. That's as the US dollar dipped on lower than expected US inflation figures. Copper prices rose by 1.9%. Aluminium prices lifted 2.2% after further cuts to production in China. Meanwhile, tin was up 2.4%, but lead fell by 1.6%. And over to gold, the gold futures price fell by 0.7% to $1,794.80 an ounce. Spot gold was trading near $1,793 an ounce at the US close. Iron ore shed 5.8% to $113.40 a tonne. That's as China's steel production slumped to the lowest level in 17 months due to strict government output curbs. That's all for the Morning Outlook Report this morning here on 𝐊𝐴𝐚 TV. Have a great day trading and stay tuned for more market updates and economic news live throughout the day. This is Rachel signing off for now.